The greatest fallout from having a near-death experience is you want to do everything. And that is my favorite part of having been dead. I'm up and now having a bird's eye view as my car is hit. So it wasn't I die and I'm up and out. I was out and then got to watch my neck go through the window and snap. Well, they didn't teach us this in Sunday school. I can't ever be afraid of dying again because I already saw that. You watch your life review and all these things that you judged yourself for or allowed other people to judge you for, and then you realize, oh my God, I am the architect of my own reality. You get into this space where you're like, why didn't I do that? So take those risks. You're playing the game and you're doing the fun stuff and you're having a ball, but you're not afraid of death. And that's how simple life can be.
Welcome everyone to the Reconnect Self podcast, the show that helps you ultimately rediscover what brings you joy. My name is Scott. I am your host. I'm also a filmmaker. And as always, I'm here with my wife, Tracy, who is a counsellor of 20 years experience, a qualified breathwork instructor, and a certified psychedelic assisted therapist. Hello.
Hi.
I know you're excited.
I'm so bubbly.
Let's just jump straight into it. Do you want me to do the intro or do you want to tell the story?
You can do the intro, but then I'm jumping in.
All right. Well, my intro actually has a little bit about this story, so you can fill in the gaps. But a few weeks ago, Tracy comes running into the room and saying, you've got to watch this video. We need to get this person on the podcast. This is my absolute belief system. So I sit down and watch this video, and it's Dr. Helen Hensley sharing her story of being in a car accident, dying, and then what she experienced on the other side. And I remember just sitting there thinking, wow, like I can be quite skeptical, but this story is amazing. So today's conversation is a little different. It's about perspective. It's about belief. It's about what happens when your understanding of life gets completely turned upside down, and ultimately what that means for how we choose to live. And since her accident, Dr. Mary has gone on to become a speaker, author, and teacher, sharing her perspective on life, connection, and what she believes exists beyond what we can see. Strap yourselves in. She's a big personality. This is going to be fun. Mary, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us.
That's a nice way of saying she talks a lot.
Oh, that's our favorite.
Yeah, that's why I think you're going to be amazing. Like the way that you held attention on, because the video that Tracy got me to watch, it's like a 50-minute video. Like it's not a short video. And like the way you speak is just so engaging. You're such a good storyteller. So I think today is going to be amazing.
So let me tell you about that video. So a few weeks ago, I actually was staying in a hotel here in Perth, and I was staying with two of my best friends. Now we're childhood friends, but we hadn't actually seen each other for about 5 years. One lives in Canada, one's a flight attendant, and she is based out of Sydney. So she's not always in Perth at the same time, and the three of us hadn't caught up for about 5 years. So there we are at the hotel. We were all going to stay the night because one of our friends had been given some free accommodation. Again, very unusual. So the three of us are staying this one night, and then my friend's mum was going to come and stay for the following 2 nights for this 3-night accommodation. And then while we're at dinner, all of a sudden my friend gets a text message, which is a terrible way to find out, saying that her mum's just passed away. And there she is with 2 of her childhood friends in that moment getting that support. Now, she could have been anywhere in the world getting this information as a flight attendant, and she's an international flight attendant, so usually she is around the world. So here she is with both of us. We're staying the night with her at the hotel and finding out this information and can support her the whole way through. And we're like, oh my God, like Jan, her mum's name's Jan. We're like, Jan, you've just organised this perfectly for her to have this support, during this time. So then the next day I was just scrolling Facebook, and your video of a near-death experience came up, and I started watching it, and after 15 minutes I started sending it to everybody, and I was like, this is amazing. I said, look, it goes for an hour, but even if you just watch the first 15 minutes, you'll be blown away. Everything you were saying in there is things I've heard before, but just in a different form. And as I watched the whole video, I was like, this is literally my belief system in one video. Like often I hear things in different videos and it might be different stories, but you captured everything in that one video. So then I went back to everyone and said, no, watch the whole thing. Like I know I said 15 minutes is enough, but don't watch the whole thing. And I'm with Scott. You were so engaging the whole time. I was just loving that video. And in fact, how I got Scott to watch it, because it was an hour, I said, please, it's my belief system. You have to learn my belief system. So he watched the video. So that video I've sent to so many people. So I was so excited when you said you would come on this podcast. And I often say we get good guests, but when I seek them out, you know that I'm really, that I'm really into them. So
and I'm laughing so hard right now because I'm sitting in my childhood home doing hospice with my 96-year-old mother, and I'm cracking up because pinned in effigy to my childhood bedroom door is a fourth grade report card.
Oh, wow.
That was like every report card I'd ever received. She's a lovely child, but she talks too much. And I'm like, I'm
look where I am now.
Talking too much, baby.
Made a career out of it.
And then you can kind of see why. And they're like, why you? I'm like, why not me?
Yep.
I get excited over, anything. And so for me to experience something in life that was so earth shattering, I'm like, change my paradigm, change, it was everything that to be true. It's just like, oh, here, by the way, it's not. And I'm like, okay, so what are we going to do with that? And I was telling you guys before we started recording that it was just like, I got a sign the other day and I'm like, oh, I'm going to Hollywood. And it's like, wait, what? I thought you live in Ireland. Oh, I do. But aren't you from Virginia? Yeah, I am. And then going to Hollywood, y'all. I am like, the greatest fallout from having a near-death experience is you want to do everything.
I love it.
So the hesitation that would limit you to not stepping outside of your comfort zone, it disintegrates. And that is my favorite part of having been dead.
Wow. Yeah. Well, why don't we, since you're in your childhood home, I think it would be good because you had some experiences before the accident, right? Like as a child growing up. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that to set the scene?
Right at that table, by the way.
Wow.
Everybody watching this is going, oh my God, look at the telephone with an actual
cord.
I
didn't even notice.
There'll be youngsters going, what is that?
Our son edits his podcast. Tommy, have a look at the
That's
phone.
How we used to hang up on people, y'all. And it made a sound. And it was so gratifying. It was
satisfying, wasn't it?
Anybody today just can go,
no, it's not enough.
Yeah.
Something's lost in translation there. As a matter of fact, that table right there, you're looking at my father's chair, and that chair right there, I get called in one day at the age of 4 to what I still refer to as the kitchen table talk. And my parents were to the point where my dad was like, I've had enough. Like what is happening right now? And he sits me down, and he was a minister, and I tell the story often. They had this experience when my mom found out she was pregnant with me, and she had German measles. They were told to terminate the pregnancy. Dad came home, minister, prays about it, whatever, and he gets a visit from what he refers to as celestial beings. Later, I was like, Dad, were those angels? And he was like, well, not like any angel I ever thought I'd see, sugar. Like it was, it was outside of his understanding of what an angelic being should look like. Therefore, they were referred to as celestial beings. So it already started off weird. Wow. And so by the time I hit like 4, I get called into that table right there. This is so cool. How cool is that? Right there. And my dad sits me down. I'm just a little thing wearing my little saddle Oxfords, sitting at, and he goes, Sugar, do you know the difference between alive and dead? And I'm like, what? And I am in such a habit of coming in and telling, and my mother, of course, my mom was the ultimate cheerleader. And that's why, being here for her at her dance with death at the end of life is so gratifying. Because I just like get, we woke up another day. And that's how we are, and I get to return the favor because she was always awesome. So Dad is asking me, do you know the difference between alive and dead? And Mom's like, oh, yes, because it was her father. Her father was my guide from day one.
Wow.
My first friend, my first spiritual encounter. And no differently, people are like, what? I'm looking at a screen right now. You guys look amazing. I'm assuming that that is a projection on a TV screen there in that fire because even though it looks really real, my mind can fill in the blanks. But I'm also assuming that you two are actually real people and not, an AI generation of something because my brain is filling in those blanks. But do I actually know that? I don't know. Do you know? And this is what it's like seeing people who are in spirit for me. So it's like you're flicking through Facebook and there's an image of somebody that you presume is flesh and blood. And that image is there. And I'm like, that's my grandfather Judge. And so it was as real. And there were times when he was sitting there, actual flesh and blood, dipping in the mattress in the end of the bed, sitting there. And so my dad was like losing it.
Wow.
And he was going, this does not fit anything we believe. But he would have to sit at that same table at that spot right there as the local minister and write the eulogies whenever people died. And I'd be sitting in that chair eating my cereal and I'd be like, Dad, Mr. Turner's here. And he'd be like, okay.
What would you like in his eulogy?
And I love this particular story because Mr. Turner was a childhood friend. And at my dad's age, that's an accomplishment. And Dad had promised Mr. Weaver, Turner Weaver was his name. Mr. Turner is what we called him, by the first name down here in the South, as we do. Mr. Johnny, So Mr. Turner was in the hospital and he was terminal and Dad had promised, buddy, I'll be there to help because Mr. Turner wanted to write his eulogy with Dad. Dad was the most amazing orator, that big booming voice and the Southern drawl. And it was just like, you'd go to church to listen to him speak. Yeah. Oh, I don't believe in what you're saying, but what you're saying is fabulous. And so Dad had promised him, buddy, I'll get down there. And he died. And one of the most upset moments I have ever seen from my father was when he realized that he hadn't made it. Wow. Because he was planning to go down like the next morning and then he gets moved to a different hospital and dies there.
Wow.
And so it really tore him up. And so when we're sitting there and I'm like, Mr. Turner's here. And he's like, okay. My mom's, walking around the kitchen, like with the dish towel, waiting for something great to happen. And I'm like, he's identifying himself by telling you, here's a nickname of somebody you guys used to hang out when you were little. This is who she was, and this was her nickname. And Dad was like, yes. And you can see his filter going, did I ever tell her that when she was younger? Did I ever say, you could see him trying to run it through the system. And I said, he also wants you to know that he's identifying himself by when you guys were in high school. He was a soda jerk and you worked for Coca-Cola, and Dad's going, you knew that. You knew I worked for Coca-Cola. Yeah, but you would bring 2 bottles of the old school bottle Coca-Cola in exchange for a strawberry milkshake. Be sure you tell him strawberry for a strawberry milkshake.
So very specific.
And then he'd just be like, that's remarkable. And he's like, can we write this eulogy? And then we'd write the eulogy.
Wow.
And it all happened at that table. And it was so funny that it was just such an amazing part of my life. And so until I got to the stage where I experienced my first real loss, I knew when other people were going to die, but they weren't connected to me. I knew when my friend's mom was going to die, and I was sad for her, very empathetic in that way, but death didn't make me sad.
Yeah.
Like when my friends were going and hanging out together and I'd be like, drop me off at the nursing home. I loved hanging out with the old people because I loved their stories.
Yeah,
thus,
they do have
the
good
love
stories.
of telling a story because it engages people and they feel alive when you can cast a net upon an audience or even a single person and energetically bring them into the feeling that you're trying to convey because it's real and they know it's real. It's not made up. I got other stuff I could be doing right now. I don't have to do this with you guys.
Yeah.
And I want to because I love the opportunity to share that good feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And I would go there and talk to the old people because I loved hearing what life was like for them. But what I also loved was being able to see everyone else that was in the room.
Wow.
And it wasn't until when I realized that everyone didn't see things that way, I was like, this is cool. And so you would get to see, because most of those people were in some stage of their passing. And so I could see the fireworks
Wow.
and the energy field around those people as they were preparing to pass. And it was magnificent.
Magical. Wow.
And so I grew up just being in love with that. So, as I get to sit here with Mom, what's so amazing is to be able to be the one who believes this, to be the one who understands when she'll go, can you hear that music? Yes, ma'am, I can. And I'm like, that's your symphony, but you and I have different soloists. And she said, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And so when people are hearing that music, when we're going through the transition phase, it's not like the lights are being turned down. They're on.
Well, our
baby.
DMT increases, doesn't it? Our
top.
DMT really goes crazy. Birth and death, I think they say endogenous DMT gets activated. And that's why you see more things,
Yeah.
or you're more at peace, or whatever it is. Should we jump into
Yeah.
I want to jump into your story because I can't wait for people to hear this.
Yeah, let's do it.
So yeah, can you tell everyone about the experience you had?
It was a dark and stormy night. It actually wasn't. It was super sunny, and it was December 14th, 1991, Charleston, South Carolina. Long story short, because there's so much more than actually having been dead.
Yep.
I go to a Christmas party for my work. I get to a traffic light on a major highway, and I sit because my light is red. And when my light turns green, I'm crossing across lanes of traffic to turn into town. And when I hit the third lane, I look and I realize that the car that's coming towards me is not stopping. It's trying to run the red light.
Wow.
Which has been red because my light had already turned green and I'd already made it across that highway. So it was then that everything changed. Everything that I knew to be true, everything I'd learned in this house, everything I'd been taught to believe, and always questioned. Imagine me, the nightmare child in Sunday school. Wait a minute, no, but wait, if Judas hadn't done that, wouldn't the story look different? Like I was that kid.
I love that.
And so for me to go into that experience, having had the crazy out of body and communications with my grandfather and all of the things that I had seen, there's still nothing like the actual death process, where in that moment, I don't care who you are, every human being who's ever possessed a body has had the thought, God, what happens if we just cease to exist?
Mm-hmm.
What if it's like this was all this experience and then that's it?
Yep.
By the way, religion capitalizes on, you get one chance, you screw it up and you're going to burn. It's kind of, what a great way to encapsulate people in fear.
Yeah.
Because the idea that there are multiple opportunities, not chances, as in you get it wrong the last time, you can come back and do it again. It doesn't work like that. And then there's inevitably, but what about the pedophiles? What about Hitler? What about that? There's always those questions where you go, no, guys, guess what happens? When you get out of the role that you're living, those who've played those very difficult roles, those souls who've been brave enough to come in and play that shadow and to create the chaos in a world where people are desperate for growth and desperate to learn and desperate to shake off the duality that Earth has to offer, you get into that space and you're like, oh, okay, this is more than my passing. And in that moment, everything changed, and there was a sound, there was a frequency, there was a tune. And I could hear this, and I now realize that that's the frequency that keeps the soul tethered to the body.
Oh.
This is all frequency and light, guys.
I always say that frequency.
Yeah. Tracy's big on that.
And so it keeps the soul tethered to the body. Once you pass out of that frequency, when you get into a faster range frequency, then you're no longer tethered to the body. Right. So when people think that we come here and there's no handbook, there actually is. I'm actually getting ready to teach a year-long course where we do a deep dive every second Saturday into learning how to utilize frequency, the manual that came with how to operate the body, where
Wow.
we move out of the mindset that, you know, these two people eat bad chicken. This one feels sick for a week. This one throws up on the spot, but we call this person sick. And we deprogram the idea that your body's here to serve you.
Yeah.
What makes more sense, that you get the poison food out as fast as possible, or that we stay on drugs for 5 days and feel crappy?
Yeah.
And, and then this person's the sick one. No. So there's a lot of deprogramming when you're having your own personal revolution or evolution. And so that's what I'm teaching that year-long course on, is to go and dive in and find out how frequency serves the body.
Wow.
So when you get into that near-death experience and all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, listen to that sound. I live in Ireland. I play Irish music. I'm a fan of the Uilleann pipes, and they're a drone that's the underarm elbow bagpipes. And the drone that comes with it is just savage. It's magic. And something really fun's coming. Whenever you hear somebody tuning up, look out.
Wow.
And that's what it felt like in that moment. I could hear this drone, and it was a very slow vibration. And I say slow and fast as opposed to high and low, because people often have a misconception that when we speak of high vibe, it's like, I'm so much better than you because I'm high vibe.
Yeah.
Or he's really low frequency, making it sound like low. It takes dark and light threads to weave any tapestry, y'all, or everything looks the same.
That's right. The contrast is necessary.
It's totally necessary. So I'm in that space where I'm still witnessing the earth around me. Everything slows down, and I go, oh, this is a choice. Oh yeah, it's a choice. Am I staying in the body? Well, no, that's going to really hurt. I don't need that. I didn't feel the need to experience the smash in the body, because it was going to be a life-ending smash. And so I was like, I'm out. And so when I heard that sound, I'm up and now having a bird's eye view as my car is hit. So I didn't have the classic near-death experience in that I witnessed my own death.
Yeah.
So it wasn't I die and I'm up and out. I was out and then got to watch my neck go through the window and snap. Wow. And, which is a really interesting thing, because there you sit and you're like, well, they didn't teach us this in Sunday school. And like, you're trying to reconcile, because you're still kind of, you're totally in the human vibe. Yes. And it's like, but now all of a sudden it's like still, and there's this weird noise in the background, and you're watching the car spin and the little body that, I used to live in that thing. Wow. But it's like driving past a hotel that you once stayed in 2.5 years ago, and like, you're not attached to that room.
I've heard
but it served you at one stage. You stayed there. It was a nice hotel, but that's about as much as you've got.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the body going, wow, that looks like a little puppet. But what was really weird was that a couple of cars back, the girl that had been my college suite mate was behind me in the accident. This is what really kind of changed perspective for me, because I could feel her emotion. And I was like, oh no, I'm good. Everything's good.
Want to reassure her.
And I could feel her freaking out.
Yeah.
And she was the one who was freaking out, not me. Out of the body did. And I recall in that space, and I was just like, everything's fine. This is so normal. I was like, oh, this is so normal. And you're suddenly realizing that this is in total opposition to everything that you feared or believed to be true or had been taught. Yeah. And you got to kind of like go, oh, okay. And so now I'm watching what's happening below, and I'm sitting there going, ma'am, calm down, girl. We're okay up here. It's good. But I can't say that. But I'm also realizing I have no attachment. Car driving past a hotel room I once stayed in, I'm like looking at the body going, well, wasn't she cute? 21 years old. But it was no kind of like, oh my God.
How old did you say you were, Mary? 21?
Pardon?
Was it 21?
21.
21. That's so young to have this huge experience at 21.
Well, it was so bizarre because I had just graduated college that May. This was just December. And I had been in art school for 4 years, and now all of a sudden you have a car crash, and like the dead guy comes up and says, my grandfather at the end of all of this, and he was like, we're sending you to chiropractic school. And I'm like, A, who's we? And B, what? And I'm like, who? Where? Chiropractic school? Like, I remember going, I was in college and I was a rower.
Yeah.
And I remember being on the team, and then I popped a rib and it hurt every time I took a deep breath. I was like 19, partying, smoking cigarettes, drinking beer. And I was like, oh my God, I have lung cancer. And I remember being taken to a chiropractor, and I'm like, I swear to God, I'll never smoke another cigarette. And then he goes, pop, and my rib goes back into place. And I'm like, party hardy. And so that's as much as I knew about chiropractic.
Yeah.
And so, like, my grandfather, I'm like, wait a second, you're like a well-revered surgeon, and you're going to send me to the school of the kind of doctors they make fun of? Like, really? Like, is this? And it was all about learning vitalism, mind, body, spirit, in walking a path that was completely parallel to and totally different than allopathic medicine, in order to be able to come back with the unique abilities that I was going to enter in with after the accident, and not to apply that, me and pharmaceutical companies, there's a little discrepancy there.
Yeah.
And so the idea of being able to help people understand the power that they possess, and that the things that their body are doing are not something to be dulled, masked over, medicated. That you got to listen to your body. It's here to serve you. It's actually here.
Mm-hmm.
That little sickness that you got, it's not random. You didn't just pick up a bug. It's trying to get your attention. It's showing you where you're off target.
I believe this too. I believe that any of our illnesses are trying to bring us back to our center, trying to bring us back to ourselves. Yep. Realign us.
Yeah. So to sin is, what is the origin of the word in Latin? It's to miss the mark. So when your body is missing the mark and you're off path, you have sinned against yourself. What you're doing is you're not paying attention to the obvious, your body's like, knock, 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 knock. And you're like, no, next Tuesday I'll do that. I'll get around it, whatever. And it's like, well, that came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
And so, you come out of a body in an accident where you're looking down, and you can't ever think about it the same way again.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
The way you integrate back into the human experience is just like that. You're like, I'm magic. You are freaking awesome.
Yes.
And it's like, I'm sure that's put on. No, and ask anyone who knows me. I'm like this 24/7. I never switch off. I barely sleep. I'm like a child who can't stand to go to bed. And it's not out of fear of missing anything. It's because I'm like, okay, I'm ready to do something new. I want to do something else.
Love that. Can you tell everyone about what you saw while you were witnessing your own accident that you then were able to use, not as evidence, but I always like to show people things that it's not just someone's telling me that. I love it when they've got a bit of evidence and someone else is like blown away by, because you saw things that you really shouldn't have seen.
Yeah, and that's a great question, because that's one of the first things that a lot of people who are in a certain mindset will be, like, oh, well, how long were you dead? As if that matters.
Yeah.
Do you know? I'm dead 5 minutes. I'm dead 10 minutes. These are the same people who are like trying to think, heaven and hell, if you're a sinner, where's the cutoff line, guys? So if I steal $5 with the intention of stealing the $5 in malice, or I steal 5 million, which one will get me into hell? Which one will get me into heaven? Which one is forgivable? And so people have this weird idea of trying to, quantify life experience and just how we view what's real and what isn't.
Yeah.
And so, as a near deather of over 35 years now, good God, I've been asked so many times in so many audiences by so many different people, and you can always tell the ones, and they're gonna ask, like, 8 minutes. How long were you dead? I was like, well, you know what? When I was out of my body watching the accident take place, I'd forgot my watch.
Didn't check the clock.
So like, I don't know. So it's really funny. What was so fascinating about this is that when I had made the decision to go out, and then the car hit I T-boned. So the car folded in half. I got to see the impact. So I'm already out at that stage.
Yep.
I got to see my head go through the window. I got to see myself suspended. I got to see the glass in my legs, and I'm like spinning around the intersection. I'm already watching this.
Yeah.
So the car comes to a stop. So how long does it take for the police to arrive, unless he was sitting right there? How long did it take for an ambulance to get there, unless it was sitting right there? I don't know. And being unable to answer with specific minutes, whether it was 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, the closest hospital, and the hospital I was taken to is a teaching hospital, which is right in downtown Charleston proper, which I was a good, with traffic, 15 minutes away from. So, it's hard to verify exactly how long that was, but here's where it gets really interesting. So I'm up and I start watching things, and I'm looking down. I'm like dead as a doornail, hanging there like a little puppet, eating my popcorn, watching this happen around me. And I see this lady walk up to the car, and she's got her phone number and her name. And I always thought this was the weirdest thing ever. Like, would you do that? Would you go put your name in? Is there like a dead person sitting in the car? She's not like, woohoo, hey, are you okay? She just quietly slips her, and I'm like, this is really funny when you think about it. Slips her number into the passenger seat because that window's blown out as well, and then walks away. And I'm like, that's peculiar. I'm sorry, that's just bizarre. Weird. I'd be like, hey, you okay? You're all right? Checking it, and I'm like, she just kind of put it. So that was weird number one.
Yes.
Then I see a guy in uniform reaching through that same passenger side, and he turns the engine off with the intention of, I don't want the engine to blow. It's like I can hear his motive as he's doing this. I don't want the engine to blow. And as he retracts out of the window, he picks up that piece of paper. So I know he has that piece of paper.
Yes.
It wasn't just, that could have been just randomly sitting
on there already.
And he didn't see her. He wasn't present when she did that.
Yeah.
So this is when everything starts to change. There's that music in the background. The sound begins to change. And now I'm going from that soul still tethered to this same body to a higher, faster frequency where I'm now detaching.
Yeah.
And this is where a lot of people, I think, experience that whole when they see the light or the tunnel or whatever. I didn't see that. It went so fast. I was like here, and then I was here. There was a music, and that music had everything to do with it. That's all I can explain, So I go into that space, and this is the space where when people are like, what about the murderers and the pedophiles and the whatever? This is a space when any soul has taken on an incarnation, when a loving soul has agreed to go in and be an utter asshole in the life that they're living in order to create opportunity growth, in order to give the best chances for people to trip up and let themselves down.
Yep.
Someone's got to play that.
Yep.
And that's not easy because it's so in opposition to what we really are. So when you think, the idea that you would want someone who would be brave enough, fabulous enough, amazing enough, loving enough to take on a role like that, and you're just concerned, they're going to burn, I'm like, wow, someone needs a little work. And, you get into this space right when you pass. And how do I describe it other than this is where the peace that passes all understanding, because there's not words for it. I'm like, I've got goosebumps every time. I've told this a million times. And you get into that space, and it's just, that's what it is. It is this, oh yeah. It's like waking up from a dream and going, I actually don't have 3 horns on my head. Ew. Did I kiss that guy that was from high school? That was, that was a nightmare. That was a this, that was a that. And you wake up and you're like, oh my God, that wasn't even real. And that's what it was like.
Wow.
And so in the midst of realizing that, boy, that was some life. Man, that was tough. That was hard. That was really, oof. Wow. The decisions that I made sometimes, nice one, ew. And you're in that space, and all you're getting is your own loving attention. And it's like everything around you is supporting the idea, no, child, you're not that.
Yeah.
This is who you are. And you're like, oh, yeah. Yes. And this is true for everyone.
Yeah.
And this is the part that pisses people who do the whole duality of heaven and hell off. They can't stand it. They cannot stand that there's no punishment and retribution. They can't bear it because someone somewhere at some stage has hurt them so deeply that they can't bear the idea that there is not punishment for that, when they forget that they too have been the demon in someone else's story at some stage along the line.
I've heard this too, that we've played every role, every character, in every incarnation we've had different, experiences and things, and we've been all those things.
So there's this wonderful space right after you leave the body where you get to go remember that. Oh, isn't that awesome? So you get into this and you're just like, you stay there as long as you want. How long were you there? I don't know, millennia, 5 minutes. Does it matter?
Yep.
It was there.
Yeah.
And this was that's right. That's not really who I am. What an amazing trip. And all of a sudden you have this reverence for yourself that you didn't have incarnate, because you're like, man, I'm a badass. I was in there doing some hard stuff.
Yeah.
And oh gosh, wasn't that really mean? What, I was 10 pounds overweight and I got mad at myself. Are you kidding?
Puts things in perspective.
And it does. Well, it's like now being in the shower with my mom here at 96 in hospice, and she'll look down at her little body, and that woman was always on a diet. And she looks down and she looks and she goes, well, who would have thunk it? And I'm like, what's that? And she said, I'm finally skinny and I can't get out of the house. And it's so fun. And I'm like, eat the brownies, y'all.
Joy.
Do things within reason, because it affects the way you interact with the world around you, how well you feel or don't feel. But, it's Mom. I have a video of her, and I think I will play it at her funeral. She'll kill me. But she's sitting eating this huge slice of cake, and she's like, the ladies on the Titanic wish they'd eaten the chocolate cake. And I'm like, Mom. And she's just so funny that way. But it's true. You get into this space where you're like, why didn't I do that?
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't I do that? What? So take those risks and the question, like, why not? Why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah.
So was there a point where you make a decision to come back?
I had gone through at that stage an amazing experience where these beings materialized in front of me out of the atmosphere. It was like you could touch it. It was malleable. The atmosphere was malleable. And what was really interesting was I was so aware that I had form, but there wasn't form like this. And this was that, oh, yes, I know who I was and I know who I've been. Oh, my God, I've been a lot of things. I had gone through the life review, excuse me, where I had been able to implode yet again, from Sunday School Mary Helen to this version of me that's going, am I a time traveler? What is happening here right now? Do you know, like, the concept of watching yourself on multiple screens simultaneously and realizing that all of this is happening at once.
Now this blows my mind. This is happening at once. This doesn't.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And then you realize, like, here's me doing this grand deed that I think that I'm so fabulous for, no, really, I'm doing it because I'm a really good person. No, in the back of your head. And I'm like, that was awesome. I should have, this. And then you're doing something really small at the same time. And that actually means more. And it's this, you watch your life review and all these things that you judged yourself for or allowed other people to judge you for, they're unfolding before you. And you're just like, this is just stuff. And this was, gosh, that was just happening at the same time that I was getting my driver's license, or this was happening, and we were judging. Who was judging me? Was that me judging me? That was me judging me. And then you're suddenly looking around going, wait a minute. Isn't this the part where somebody else is supposed to be judging me right now and determining whether I get to go this way or this way? And then you realize, oh my God, I am the architect of my own reality.
Yeah.
Sit with that for a second. Mind blowing. And so as the architect of my own reality, that time comes where nobody goes, you have to go back. Young lady, you have a life. That's so Hollywood. Do you know? The reality of it is like, oh my God, I like that girl. She's got moxie. I'm digging that life. That's really fun. And is that body that damaged? Okay, the neck's broken. She walks a little funny. There's, she has facial numbness all the time. Then she's going to be deaf in one ear. She's going to be blind in one eye. But like, is this still doable?
So you knew that up there?
That I was going to be all messed up?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're knowing what you're facing when you're coming back in?
Yeah, it's like, driving a car away from an accident. It's not damaged so badly that you can't, your muffler's dragging behind you and all that. But I'm like, okay.
And
So
you
yeah, I knew.
and you
And I went
feel
back
like
in.
you did have a choice that you could choose to go back into the
Oh,
body, or
100%.
right? Okay,
But it
wow.
wasn't, here's the interesting part. It wasn't someone else giving me a choice.
Mm.
I gave myself the choice.
Yeah.
I had the choice.
Mm-hmm.
I had a choice, not because someone forced me in there. I had a choice because I realized that the choice was mine all along. I'm the one who put me there.
Yeah.
And this is very different in degrees of, some people are like, well, how do you know you were actually dead and it wasn't a hallucination? And I've heard other people who had NDEs and they saw hell. And I'm like, we're getting a variety of 8 billion fractals of the same divine consciousness who are having totally different experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, they're going to have different NDEs. Of
Yeah.
course, they're not going to look the same. As they approach that space, the influence, as they are still connected to the experience, the influence of what they believe to be true is still, the remnants of that are still falling off.
Yep.
And so when people go in, and especially if they're going to send themselves back, and they have had this rigid heaven and hell version of the story, or, this divine justice, of the sword of righteousness is mine to bear against all of my fellow brethren, oh my God, are you kidding me? And so they're going to see something that's going to totally turn them on their ear.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to have an experience that's going to turn that upside down.
Yep.
And so in this experience, for me, having grown up in a household where there was the divine and the divine was separate, and one of the most amazing things about coming back to the South to do hospice, I haven't lived here since I was 17. I'm 57,
Mm-hmm.
And I get back here and I'm like, oh my God, this place, I spent all my time trying to get out of here. This is like a PhD course. We're in the deep South. We don't eat well. Education is everything. Keeping up with the Joneses is this. We still have racism here. The religious indoctrination is crazy. The political separation is, let's don't even go there. Do you know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, this was a PhD course because it was like, I can't live here. These people are insufferable. Well, how much did you grow while you were in it? And then I realized, oh my God, I wasn't mature enough to do that yet. And then you come back in here and you look around and you go, this is marvelous. For a soul to incarnate in a space where all of it's on offer, it was like a buffet and a buffet of opportunity on earth. And so you get here and you're like, oh my God, this is incredible. You get to see how deep we go into these stories. And if you realize that the story of, especially in this region here where I am, of religion and the separation of there is a divine and you are only worthy if you spend all of your time in service to others. And thank God I had the accident and became a chiropractor, because the president of my college in our psychology courses made us read Ayn Rand, The Fountainhead. And I'm like, what? Wasn't she the communist? Wasn't it, and then you start reading it and you start reading how altruism and how forced altruism is a product of a system that is designed to enslave you. And it's a really interesting concept to read at such an early age and to go, this is true, because it's like in this area, it is like you give, you're indoctrinated into, you pay a percentage with your taxes, you go to church, you pay your tithe, you do, everything's about work your tail off and give until you've got nothing left. Why do you think breast cancer is so prominent here? Because it attacks the women who are already prone to over-nurturing. They're caretakers, they're loving, and somewhere in their own past, they have devoted themselves to the care of others because they were told that unless they did, they weren't worthy in the eyes of God.
Yeah.
And so it's been fascinating as a grown-up who's been through all the experiences and traveled the world and seen all the different things to come back here and go, this place rocks, like it's all on tap here. The opportunity to learn one's worth and value, and the idea of stepping out and being so bold to say, well, you know what? It's like big saying around here, God's at the wheel or Jesus is at the wheel, until it's something that doesn't suit them. And then we don't hear that for some reason. I'm like, wait, no. He's supposed to be at the wheel all the time. Not when it still applies. You don't get to do it just when it feels good or something good happens or someone got the job promotion. God is good. No, God's good all the time.
Yeah. So you come back
even
into
when
the
you
body.
didn't get the promotion.
How did you tell everyone? Like, how did you start sharing that, given that you're in a place where it's so...
Well, also the part about telling the police officer.
Oh, yeah, go back to that.
That's
So many
a
good
good
things.
part of the story.
Okay, so that's me coming in, making my choice, going back, and then I wake up on the pavement. And I don't realize how broken I am, So obviously they've gotten me out of the car. And I'm on the pavement, and I remember, oh Lord, trying to get up because I'm the little engine who could. I didn't realize, oh yeah, by the way, you just died. I'm just like, this is no joke. I don't even know if I've ever said this on a podcast, but I saw a clip that reminded me of this the other day. There was a show back in the day when I was growing up called Growing Pains.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
I remember
yeah.
that.
Do you remember that show?
Yeah.
Okay, so the sister who's finally come of age and she has her boyfriend and falls in love, and he dies in a car accident. And there was this episode, where he's fine and she's talking to him and he looks great and he's going to be okay. Oh, thank God. Well, then he dies of internal injuries.
Wow.
I was so messed up from this, right? I remember waking up and I'm like, I've got to move. Not even real, my neck's broken. And I'm like, oh my God, I've got internal injuries and they don't know. Seen that episode? Yeah, he was smiling and talking and so adorable. God love him, and he was dead. Do you know? And so I remember this so vividly. And I'm like trying to move, and then that's it. They strap me to the board and chuck me in the back of the ambulance. And now I'm like, wait a minute. Something has happened here. And now I'm starting to cry. And I'm like, Dad. And she's like, no, sugar. She's rubbing my hair. No, sugar, we're not going to let you die. Don't you worry about that. I'm like, and then I'm out. And then I get to the hospital, and there are those moments of coming in and out of consciousness. And there's this moment where this guy walks in, and I'm like, I know you. And it's the police officer who had been first on the scene.
Yeah.
And so he's like, no. And I was like, yeah, you were at the accident. And he was like, how do you know that? I was like, I saw you. And he's like, no, I'm the one who pulled your dead body out of that car, And I say to him, the phone number with the lady's name on the piece of paper. And you can see he bristles. And he's like, what's happening right now? Do you know? And I'm like, did you talk to my college suite mate? She was a few cars behind me. And this dude looks at me and I look at him, and simultaneously, like, imagine in the movie where they actually drop a penny and you hear it.
Yeah. I've literally
both
got
of us
goosebumps even as you're
realized,
saying it.
holy shit, what just happened here? I'm like, that guy's got to go home and live with that. And I'm sitting by myself in a hospital and I have to live with it, right? And we're both realizing at the same time, because he's like, there's no way that you know that. Especially, how did you know she was back there? Because there'd be no way unless you saw here. How did you know your head went through the window? How did you know that phone number was there? How did you know I was the one who turned the car off? Because I saw you. And then you realize, oh, yeah.
This is the stuff I love. And I've heard so many stories over the years of people being in an ICU and then hearing conversations with the doctor to their friend down the hallway. And then when they repeat it afterwards, they're like, I didn't have that conversation in the room. They're like, no. I just find that fascinating. So your video that I saw,
it's wild.
all of it
imagine
in one. Yes, I know.
And then here's the big shocker, guys. For 3 days, I didn't speak.
Really?
I know. It's hard to imagine.
All that processing going on.
I was stunned and it wasn't because I was in, when you're in so much pain because there's so much wrong that there's so much pain that you really don't even notice it. I was in that stage.
Wow.
And it wasn't, funny enough, because it was a Saturday. And like I said before, it was a teaching hospital. And I got taken in on the afternoon. They had missed the broken neck.
Oh, shit.
Oh, no.
So it was a phone call to Dr. Tony Ross, who was my chiropractor then, on Johns Island in Charleston, who says, get in here afterwards. And I, because like I was released very shortly after. And so he takes me in and he starts x-raying and he's like, fractured, 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 because I couldn't swallow.
Oh,
That was the
wow.
problem. I didn't realize how much damage I'd done to the vagus nerve, hypoglossal nerve. I couldn't swallow.
Gosh.
So it was the skinniest I've ever been in my life.
Can eat the cake
But
now.
yeah, it was that really interesting thing because there were so many things that got missed there. I detached a retina. They didn't catch that in the ER.
Oh,
I
wow.
was deaf immediately. They thought, that'll come back, whatever. I'm still deaf in that ear.
Really?
And so it's that, yeah. I think if I could hear out of that ear, the world would be too overwhelming for me now. It's just like I've been deaf longer than I had hearing there.
Yeah.
So I'm really good on the one side.
Yeah.
And so, you're broken all the way down. You go to doctor's visits and they're like, you're never going to have children. I have two. But it was one of those things where I was married a year following the accident. And, we were together for 4 years then. There were never any pregnancies, never anything. And then when I met the girl's father, I had a dream and I knew I was going to have two children. And I'm like, but you can't have children. You're having two children, but I can't. And you are. And there
Wow.
they came. So don't ever let anybody tell you that they know your prognosis for life.
I agree with this. I want to say that really clearly to everyone as well, because when people tell me, that someone's been diagnosed and they've got this long to live, or even when they're first born and they say they won't live past whatever, people then live into that diagnosis. And I've heard people can die after their 18th birthday if they've been told that. Like, you just have that belief system. And I think it comes down to, even with placebo effect, they have to take that into account with scientific experiments because it's so powerful. It actually changes results. So if you've been told something, you're believing that, your system is believing that, your cells are believing that. So yeah, I believe we need to challenge.
Well, it's like sitting here with mom at 96. And,
Yes.
I told you right before we started, I'd packed a suitcase for a 3-week visit, got here. Mom and I'd been discussing for years, when the time comes that you need 24-hour care, I'm here. I'd been prepping already for 2 years leading up to it. And so I arrived with my little suitcase and then it was like, oops, mom has an event. We end up in the hospital. We get the doctor who was just darling came in and he was like, your mom's in stage 4 kidney failure. And we can't, obviously, because of her age, do dialysis. And he said, I know she wants to die at home. And I said, okay. And he said, so we're going to send you home day after tomorrow's her birthday. Let her eat cake, just fill her up with Dr. Pepper and chocolate cake and let her have a ball and whatever. And I was like, okay. And so this was on the 5th of May last year. And I'm laying back in the chair, and this is after having been told, look, her kidneys are just gonna shut down now.
Yeah.
And we're gonna let that happen at home. They put her home in the ambulance, and that's what it's gonna look like. It'll be quick, whatever. I'm like, rock on, dude. That's not what I was told, but anyway, thanks a mil. And so I'm like in the chair and I'm kind of dozing, and I look over, and this is middle of the night, and there's my grandfather. Luckily, my mom was out. She was asleep when that prognosis was made bedside.
Good.
Right.
So she didn't hear it.
Good.
And she's asleep. I am there sitting in the chair, just kind of snoozing in and out. I look over, there's Judge, my grandfather. He's my spirit guide, guys, all my life. And he's like this. And I've seen this so many times in my life. I've done it so many times in my life, and people's, so it's just normal for me to end up in somebody's hospital room or whatever. So I'm like, how's it going? And this apparition of him is hanging over my mother. My mother wakes up and she goes, Daddy, you're early.
Oh my gosh.
So we go home to die. And what's today's date? April 8th?
And 9th. Oh, we're 9th, but you're probably
May 5th of last year.
Wow.
We're still on our It is the longest 48 hours of my life. We've had a ball and we've written a book and we've done all her memoirs and all. In my second book, when I write about my experience of death with mom, she's a huge Angela Lansbury Murder, She Wrote fan. So I've
I used
written
to love it. Yeah.
Death by Murder, She Wrote.
I love.
So we've had so much fun and it's been great. So nobody knows. That is up to the individual. And so on her sixth TIA mini stroke, we're laying in the floor because I caught her right before she went down. And I said, "Woman, how many times are we doing this?" And I said, she goes, "There's still one thing left to get in line," and then passes out.
Wow.
And so here's what's really interesting, and where I, as you know, do I know a lot of stuff about life and death and the afterlife that more probably than the average person? Yes. Do I say that in an arrogant manner? No. I spend all day, every day doing this stuff.
Yeah.
And so, but I never, ever, ever purport to know everything. Like I had a GERD attack, a gallbladder attack. I've had them 4 times in my life. I know what it feels like. I knew I wasn't having a heart attack. I went to the ER anyway. Don't ever let your ego get out of check just because you think you know everything.
Yeah.
And so, Mom and I are sitting in the floor and I'm like, "What's going on here?" I'm like, it's okay to go. And she's like, "I'm not ready to go." And I went, "Fine." And here's one of the things, we wrote a book called Bringing Death to Life. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we emphasize in that is be sure to allow your loved one to know it's okay to go.
Yes.
But
yes.
I also say, after having experienced this, it is also none of your damn business. And you need to let them go when they're ready to go. Not when you're ready for them to go, but when they're ready to go. And I got schooled because I've known since I was 11 years old when my mother was going to die. Now, we're still in the window, but the exact date, like I knew with my father, we passed that when Mom had this big stroke and then went,
"Not ready.
Not yet."
Wow.
I got to watch her change her own game plan. So there's nothing set in stone. Now, are we kind of in the window of where I've always known? Absolutely. And how? Absolutely. But she got to change in that moment. There's still one more thing. There's still something else left to do. And I was like, "Rock on. You go when you're ready."
Do you know what the thing is?
And so, huh?
Do you know what the thing is that she's waiting for?
I am so anxious by the fact that I came here to be with her to go, and do the end of life thing. I'm always going out every day, making sure it's not me. I don't want to be the one who's anchoring her here. And so we had that talk the other day.
Yeah.
And I went, "Mom, Mom has a chapter in Bringing Death to Life. She was the only one in the group who had lost a spouse. So she gets all this. She was there. She knows." And, I was like, "Mom, do I need to go? Am I holding that?" She's like, "No." And I said, "The thing that still needs to take place." And "It's not you." I went, "Okay." It's okay to be honest with somebody. And I'm so grateful that we have that relationship. That's my mom who had to raise the weird little kid who did not fit inside of her religious box in any way, shape, or form, in any box.
Yeah.
And she was always my cheerleader. And so the privilege of being able to have the conversations about death have also made this really fun. She was like in her chair and she was like, "Mary Helen." And I came in and she goes, "Meet Aunt Ida." Hey, Aunt Ida, her great aunt, who would have been like dead in the 1920s, I'm like, "Hey." And she's like, "I heard you were looking for a cover for Helen's book."
Oh, so
Yes,
you could see her,
so
but your mum could as well.
Here's my face, y'all. Yeah, I could see her.
Right. Wow.
Can you even? And so here's the thing. You do this all your life. It's like it's the first time. It's like a virgin every time.
Yeah.
It's
still magical.
I mean, it just knocks your socks off. You're
Yeah.
like, "You got to be kidding me." Well, hey. So she's like, "There's a photograph. And here's where it's located." Well, guess what? I go and I find it.
Wow.
And it's the perfect cover for the book. And it's like one of the old black and whites that's been, where they would drop in the tones, the colors into, it just looks really cool. And it's my mom and she's little, with this dog. It's perfect. And on the back written in Aunt Ida's hand in pencil is "Helen at Aunt Ida's." And I'm like, "What?" And I love watching someone try to logic around that. Well, you probably already knew that was there or not. I mean, who the hell I was, you know?
Yes.
And so being able to have these fun conversations with mom, she's hysterical. Like the Murder She Wrote episodes where you're watching Murder She Wrote, somebody's always dead on every episode, guaranteed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so she's like, ooh, that'd be awful. She's like, I'm glad I'm going like this. And it's so comical
Yeah.
because there's literally no fear around it.
Yeah.
And so the idea of being able to so openly speak of death because it's literally like walking through the door.
Yeah. You know, I've heard
And to
even
be at that space.
even with psychedelics, people often say that when they've gone through a mushroom journey, like a psilocybin journey, they don't have fear of death either. Like they feel like they're connected to everything. They feel such a sense of peace. That again, that changes their perspective of death. Remember that documentary?
Yeah.
And this is a
Yeah.
very important point because this is how that can be helpful to people. They'll come back with nuggets.
Mm-hmm.
So when people will often ask, what's the difference between doing a mushroom trip or doing ayahuasca or doing DMT or doing something than having the near death? Here's what I've been able to figure out so far. And do I know everything about it? Absolutely not. But here's what makes the most sense to me. You guys are sitting there on the other side of the world from me, having you look like you due to your genetics. I look like me due to my genetics. That's the physical aspect of who we are. The emotional body, the emotional trip, the spiritual journey that we have whilst in these bodies, if we're coming from the same stream of divine consciousness, if we're coming from the same info, and then we're becoming fractals of that into 8 billion experiences here on Earth. How did we all I had a totally different pandemic than the rest of the world. I had a ball. I drove Route 66. I'd had roller skates and was roller skating through Roswell, New
does
Mexico
not surprise
with a
me at all.
10-foot hat on. I had a ball. Well, wait, you were able to travel? Yeah, weren't you? I had 2 passports. I was here. Isn't that funny? They let me in because of a passport. Huh. And so I'm having a completely different experience but wait, how is that possible? If we're living in the same 3D reality, how are we all having different experiences? Well, there's a neuroinhibitor, a neurochemical of the brain called GABA. And GABA, when we speak of beyond the veil is actually a chemical mist. This is what allows us to have our different experiences. So when you put these filters in place that allow you to be you and me to be me, that's how we get to be in the exact same world and have completely different experiences. So what I have surmised so far, because I work with so many people who facilitate retreats and, with plant medicine and all this kind of stuff. And so I really ask the deep questions about this, that, and the other. And I'm like, here's what makes the most sense to me is that when those filters are in place and that you've got a GABA inhibitor that's preventing you from this piece of knowledge so that you can immerse yourself into this version of the game.
Yep.
When you take a drug or when you do psychedelics or you do whatever, you temporarily drop the GABA and you can go in, you grab a nugget. It's like, Donkey Kong throwing the barrel and you catch it. And, it's like, I'm running with this barrel. You didn't win the whole game, but you got the barrel, right?
What a great analogy.
So then it goes back up again. So it doesn't permanently remove, but you grab out that little nugget. So this, for somebody who has a fear or anxiety about X, Y, or Z, this can be very helpful. For a near-deather, we seem to go into that space and that particular filter becomes disintegrated.
Yeah.
It can't go back up again. So I can't ever be afraid of dying again.
Yeah.
Because I already saw that. I peeked in and so I'm going to have fun and live. It's like somebody who knows, your best friend slips and tells you that you're getting ready to walk into your surprise party. You're going to act all when you get there because you don't want to hurt your friend's feelings, but you already knew.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how life is. And you're playing the game and you're doing the fun stuff and you're having a ball but you're not afraid of death.
Yeah.
You're not having to work that out. The greatest challenge for me is the weird basic human stuff. And my children make fun of me about it all the time. They're like, Mom, this would be an appropriate reaction right now to be very sad about that. And I'm like, oopsie. So I'm like walking around like the queen of autism. Do you know, I'm just like, and it is so funny. And people love putting that. Is it because you're ADHD? Yes, attention dialed into a higher dimension. Do you know, is it because I had a cataract surgery and I'm like, hey, I have this crescent shape I can see. So the lens is the wrong size. It's, I'm seeing the crescent. Oh, well, that will go away in time. It's not going away. It's there. We need to change this. It's whatever. And so she goes, well, people who are like you, and I was like, have we met? And she's like, of a certain intelligence level. You've probably tested really high with your IQ. I'm like, you're trying to nicely say you think I'm autistic. Is that right? And she was like, well, yeah, not bad. I don't mean anything bad by it. It's amazing. I was dying. And I'm like, well, thank you. Because I remind people all the time when we look at our brethren around us who are autistic or on the spectrum somewhere, it's because they don't possess the same filters that we do. So they know things and I don't have to talk. You know what? I'm going to come here and let you take care of me. I don't need to talk.
Yeah.
Or I don't need to do this. Or if I'm going to cry out like a baby when something pisses me off, I don't feel like I have to not spare your feelings, or do I? I just don't have that. That's all about GABA inhibitors. And so these are some of the most, to me, amazing people who walk this planet.
Yeah.
You're in the presence of masters when you are in the presence of someone who is clinically autistic.
They're just being themselves.
They're not enslaved to the same filtration system. And so we find them. So what do we do? Oh, well, they're special. They're, and I'm like, they know far more than you do.
Yeah.
So I find that part fascinating. So it's all about GABA and neuroinhibitors and being able, best analogy, you love a good cup of coffee. So the coffee filter that I used last Tuesday made an excellent cup of coffee. If I've put 8 other filters in on top of that one, doesn't mean that last Tuesday's coffee with that filter wasn't good. It means that it's used up. I don't need it anymore.
Yeah.
But what happens to the vast majority of people with these GABA inhibited filters is that we go through the experiences, we check the boxes off, and then the filters are still there. Like, why am I attracted to the same kind of guy over and over again? I've learned all the lessons. I've taken all the workshops. I've done all
But they're not integrating it.
But they can't, because it's on a cellular level. It's the frequency. It's the old coffee filter was never removed.
Right.
So there is a really easy way to navigate life. And so, what's the best part about being dead? It's that knowing to go for all of it. And that's what I was saying to you guys before. It's that it removes the inhibition of not coming here and doing everything I can get my hands on. And it's a wonderful
I think that's the message for everyone. It's you've lived an amazing life. And you might have lived an amazing life anyway, but what happened to you has removed all your inhibitions and you've just gone out there and taken it. I mean, the fact that, you're moving to Hollywood just like that, like that kind of thing.
Oh, by the way.
Yeah, it's crazy, but in an amazing way. Something else I wanted to ask you, which we've learned about you, is around spirit guides. Excuse me. And you say something that I just found, just listening to your voice, is very soothing. And you said something like, "You're never alone." Do you want to
ever?
Yeah. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, here's me all the time. You're never, ever, 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 ever alone. And then you're always going to get the psycho who's going to turn around and go, "Oh, what? They're in the shower with me." I'm like, just don't be gross. Like, really? Yeah. Do they know what color underwear you have on? Maybe they do, maybe they don't, but that's not what they're here for. And one of the things that's misunderstood, it's like spirit guides and auras. What color is my aura? People are like, is it orange? Is it purple? No, you obviously don't understand. Therefore, I'm just not going to answer the question in anything other than basics. It undulates, it fluctuates, it responds to the atmosphere around you. It's never one solid color. It just doesn't work like that. And so the same with spirit guides. People are like, oh, I'm working with Archangel Michael. Well, wow, yeah, that's one busy dude. Your personal spirit guide is, can you call upon the energy of something and can that show up? Absolutely. And your understanding and belief in that particular frequency. My office manager in Ireland believes so deeply in the frequency of Saint Anthony, the patron saint of
I love
lost
the
things.
accent. Look at you.
She's hysterical. And our Sandra has Tourette's. I'm like living my dream. My office manager has the best Tourette's ever, right? And so she like full on. Imagine as a chiropractor, you're like, boom, hallelujah, boom. And her Tourette's gets voices like she has Elvis Day or she'll have like whatever.
Wow.
I'm like, I'm living my best life, honestly. And like, why would a doctor who works on removing interference to the nervous system not hire someone with Tourette's? My people love her. Everybody, like, they come to see her as much as they do me. But it's just, I don't even know why I was talking about that.
But that makes me want to say,
Yeah,
are you
go ahead.
practicing? Are you practicing chiropractic? Is that what your main?
I've been doing for 27 years, but I'm getting ready to hang up that shingle. I'll always have the knowledge, but I'm not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
But when I get back after I've done this experience, this was a way for me to step back out of that. But I look at this and the joy of being in a space when, like, my office manager that I was talking about with Tourette's, it's like her joy of just showing up in a moment and being able to say what's there. And we laugh and people laugh about it. And it brings such joy to my everyday life. We're laughing 24/7.
How beautiful.
I've been able to create a space for myself that's all about possibility. And it's all about not doing things by the book. And it's like, I've had one person in all the years she's worked for me. That's highly inappropriate. There should be, please finish that sentence. Oh, please. There should be a sign on the wall saying that, and I can be such a little biatch when I hear things like, and they're like, you should have warned us. Warned you that she had Tourette's. I'm like, she's got herpes too. I put that on the wall? And she doesn't, of course, but she just dies laughing. And I'm like, what is wrong with you? If you're uncomfortable here, don't come. How simple is that? So it was like during the pandemic, if you're uncomfortable with the fact that I am not vaccinated, don't come in here. Don't walk in pitching a fit. Do that in your own house.
Yep.
You don't this is my space. And therefore we're shaping and creating our own reality, and so it's just
I agree with that too.
It's what marvelous.
It's what you focus on. Like, we don't watch the news. Scott and I haven't watched the news for a very long time, and people still tell you the bits that you need to know. So we don't feel like we're totally out the loop. But I just feel like it's exactly where you put your attention is where the energy flows, and so therefore the interactions we have in our days, because we're being kind or nice or just open-hearted, we're having different interactions than someone else that's focusing on the person that cut them off in the traffic or the thing that went wrong in their day. Like, they're having a totally different experience of their day compared to what someone else with a different lens is coming through.
Absolutely. Well, there, the great mystic Emanuel Swedenborg, who most metaphysicians don't know about. Most people who are into it, he wrote more volumes about metaphysics in the 17th century, than have ever been written ever. Wow. And a healer that I knew very well a long time ago, named was Shally, she condensed everything that he told into the most amazing phrase. And it was just a catchphrase of the ages. You are what you love, and what you love is what you give your attention to. And so in the moment, this is when people don't realize that everything is food, not just what you put here. The amount of times I've been working with somebody and I'm like, here, we're going to use this frequency for your gallbladder. I knew it, you fraud. I don't have a gallbladder. There's 3 legs on that stool, a mind, a body, and a spirit, each carrying a vibration. Therefore, just because your physical gallbladder isn't there, the energy meridians and all that it stands for, your bitterness and inability to digest the world around you, is all intact. And so this is why it's important to know how that body works. And so you are what you love. And that can be the food you're putting in here, or the food you're putting in here, or the food you're putting in here.
I imagine that since you've become really public about your story, you would have gotten a lot of backlash, obviously a lot of support as well, like people like me. But I imagine the people that think you're a kook or you're a this or you're a that. So you being, and I also think that when you've had an experience for yourself, like I had an experience where it was in a twilight sleep. So I wasn't asleep. I was just in that mid awake point of as you're about to wake up in the morning, and an ex-boyfriend came to me in that moment, and I gasped. I literally was like, like I knew he shouldn't have been here. I knew that wasn't really like he was dead.
It was crowded, Scott.
So I was like, oh my goodness, like it was such a shock. But I knew that wasn't a dream. I knew that it wasn't just, me making that up. And so even though I was very young, I was 19 at the time this happened, lots of my friends or people around me would have thought, oh, she was dreaming. She was just, no. I knew what I experienced, and no one, even to this day, could shake me off that spot. So I feel like even though, you would have had all those negative responses, I would guess, you know exactly what you experienced, and so no one can shake you off that. And I mean, luckily you had all the other experiences leading up to that in terms of, what you saw and what your knowledge around the world was like was a bit different than other people anyway. But I just think having an experience, you don't buy into those stories. You don't buy into that critique and things because you are just so solid on what your experience was.
I've also lived long enough to, when somebody gets in opposition and they start wanting to argue, and I'm just like, oh, I'm not doing that today. And it really irks them. And I'm like,
my energy there.
You're not defending. Oh no. To defend what happens means that there's some place in me that doubts what happens. And I don't care. I couldn't care less if one person who watches this interview that we're doing right now gets it or doesn't. Do I hope it brings joy, satisfaction, happiness, some relief, whatever? That would be awesome for them.
Yeah.
But if someone is going, that's not true, that's not what I don't care.
Yeah.
And that's when I know that's why I got chosen for the job, because it's not about being thick-skinned. It's about, I don't care what you think about me.
Yes.
Like
that's what we all need to get to. That's what we all need to get to, though, that if we only care what we feel about ourselves, don't get me wrong, you can take on feedback from loved ones and things, but from the random person that's out there, no, you don't know me. Like you said, you know a piece of me, a tiny little portion, but you don't know all of me. So I think that's really important, that coming back to, your own beliefs and your own self-love, would help you with all those critiques and criticisms. And
it's that micro and macro, though, because it's the way a lot of people live their lives. And they're like, I don't know why I keep attracting these experiences into my life. I'm like, you live like that at home, you're going to live like that outside of home. And so it's the consistency of truly practicing what you preach in that. Do I know everything? No. Yay. Am I still learning? Michelangelo said it best. I'm still learning. If you're here taking breath, you're still learning.
Yeah.
Watching my mom at 96, she's still learning. We're having conversations still about things when she's having moments of lucidity.
Wow.
That, you can tell she's still learning, and that's why she's still here. Otherwise, she wouldn't be here.
Yeah, she would have completed this life.
It's rolling with every single day and waking up. Oh my God, but you said you had all those injuries and you're getting older. Aren't you in pain? I'm in pain every day of my life. Horrific pain. Oh. And here's how I wake up every day. Yep. She's still here. I got a really fun interview lined up tonight. Is the pain I'm in right now bigger than me showing up for these guys? Nope, it's not. And if it wasn't, then I'd send you a message and go, I can't do it today.
Yeah.
And that's how simple life can be.
I think that's such a great message, because I think, we've done lots of these episodes, not specifically about this. And one of our key messages is live the life that you want to live. And like, people hang on to these expectations of what they should be doing, like whether it's society, their parents, whoever. Mm-hmm. I think your message is, and whether you believe, in what you experience or not, it's not even really the point. The point is the life that you've chosen to live and the way you live your life. You could feel sorry for yourself. You could
woe is me, I was this and that, I'm in pain now.
The hearing, the pain, what you experience with your eyes, like all of those things. You could have lived such a different life, but the life that you chose to live, and I think that's the overarching message that I want our audience to take away, is just go and grab it. grab it by the balls
Absolutely.
and run with it and have fun with it.
Absolutely.
And I, like I said at the beginning of the show, like I just grew up skeptical. Like I didn't want to be a skeptic. That's just how I grew up, right? So, and when I hear stories like yours, it gives me hope, you know, and that's, I think, what people can grab onto. You don't have to believe every single thing, but for me, I have hope that, you know, we don't have to take it so seriously, and there will be other chances, and you know, the world is magical. And my belief system now is a bit more. It's so hard to describe, and I mean, we haven't even gone down the whole how time works, because I think it's too complicated in my brain.
We'll just have to do that again.
Yeah.
One of my favorite subjects.
Oh, I would love to. We would have to devote a show to that one.
Let's do it.
Oh, perfect. But the way I sort of see it is, the whole filter thing is kind of my belief. Like, we as humans sort of have this filter of the 3D world, and everyone is locked into this paradigm of what is within that filter. And like Tracy was saying, I can't remember who I was listening to, but someone was explaining going on a ridiculous amount of DMT. It was like he had something really wrong with him, and he had DMT on an IV. It was on a podcast I was listening to. And basically all of those filters just went away, and he saw the magnificence of the universe, and he didn't have the words to describe.
Yeah, they say ineffable. You really just can't.
Ineffable. Yeah, I can't even say that word. So that's what I want our audience to take away, is your story is amazing. I actually do believe, I think it's phenomenal, but just take away the learnings. That's the key message for this episode.
But also, in comparison to what you just said there about, you know, it's great. It's, you know, I have people who are like, well, for you, you know, it's easy for you to feel that way because you were dead and you got to see all of this. I got to see it. Yes. Walking around this world with the knowledge of what's on the other side is not a walk in the park. It's not easy. You have to get up and make an effort every day to engage with storylines that I know aren't real. And to honor the fact that the people who are around me who might not have learned that yet, to not just turn around, you're a fool for believing that. And you know, social media is a great way to get sucked into that downward spiral, you know. And you know, it's one of those things where it's just looking at life and allowing for the possibility of change like this. That if change is coming to you, I had just graduated 4 years of training to be an artist, and bang, I break my neck, and now I go become a doctor. I have dyscalculia. I had to go get degrees in physics and chemistry.
Wow.
Talk about a nightmare. By the skin of my proverbial teeth, I got a degree in chemistry and physics before becoming a doctor. And then that weird little brain of mine kicked in, and I was like, steel trapped, didn't have to study much. I'd take photographs of the work in my mind, and there's the information. I'd do it to songs. I was in my element once I got in there, but getting in the door with physics and chemistry near killed me.
Wow.
And so now, all these years later, I'm fascinated by how the body works and how willing people are to give it over to pharmaceuticals. It's like being here in America, every second person I've come across, and I got the chance to practice here because I was covering for a doctor who was out. Every second person's on gabapentin. Think about that. Remember how we talked earlier before?
Yeah.
GABA.
Just keeping them all in their vein.
GABA do? It's keeping them in a stasis.
Yes.
It's not allowing for the fluctuation or the growth and development of the individual that allows that filter to naturally drop. It keeps them in a stasis. And I'm like, whoa, this is incredible, you know? And so, wait, what? You mentioned I was going to go to Hollywood, but wait, don't you have a whole life yeah, I did Ireland already. And I'm not going to give it up. I love it. It's really fun. And I've been here in the South, and it's great. The hay fever's got me killed. And I'm like, yeah, probably not where I want to live in the spring. And so I'm like, what do I want to do? Well, I work out in LA. I love it. And I'm going to go do Hollywood for a while. So that's where I'm going. And then all of a sudden I started here. I've been working on, here's my last, I've been a doctor for 30 years. Never put a paintbrush. I started painting. There's one of my, I just did that for my auntie. I forgot I knew how to do art.
You had the degree. That's gorgeous.
And I was so like, well, I just never used it. And so now I'm finding that this is my respite. And this is where my brain meditates, because can you imagine this kid meditating?
Yeah. So you're going to flow with your painting.
Like, yeah. So I have to do it that way to go.
Quieten it all down.
And it's a genuine, it's not hyperactivity because of some ism or itis. I am like this all the time because I'm so freaking grateful to be here.
That's so beautiful.
I think that's an
Imagine
amazing.
if you could capture that energy in your own life without having to die. Wouldn't that be cool? So that's what I spend my time teaching people and writing about and doing. I'm like, hey, you too can feel like this without breaking your neck.
Yeah.
And
go through winter.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So it's capturing that joy and that knowing, and that you're never, ever, ever, as you mentioned, Scott, you're not alone. Those guides. Oh, that's why we were talking about Sandra with the Tourette's. She plagues Saint Anthony. She literally works that vibration, the patron saint of finding all lost things. Saint Anthony in the office all the time, right? And guess what? Sure enough, she shouts it out, and then the thing turns up. She's so in that vibe. And I'm like, that man must be exhausted at the end of a spiritual day with Sandra. And, but it's being in that vibration and understanding. Guides come into our life and go. It's like all of the people who have brought information to you, different guests that you've had, different interactions, different doctors, different teachers. So when people are like, oh, I've got one spirit guide and his name is la, 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 I'm like, that sounds cool. And it might be one. It might be an individual who turns up, but there's an entire team that works around you.
Which is so beautiful to know that.
It is. It's awesome. But at times where this one's area of expertise is this particular thing you're going through. And so this one steps up and these step back. They never leave you. It's just that they're changing shifts based on your needs. You're literally attracting in those who are the experts in your story. So you are never, ever, ever, ever alone.
Yeah. And I think when you start paying attention to these things, the magic that you see in the universe and the things that the synchronicities, in fact, coming back to the very beginning of our episode, today is actually the funeral of the mum that died for my friend. So the fact that you're recording a podcast with us on the day of the funeral, your video was right there for me the day after we found out. You can't make it up. And there's so many beautiful things that even though, there's a sad time for my friend, in the time that we were in the hotel room and joking around, and my friend is so funny, she's got such good humour. Her mum was really excited about coming to this particular hotel because it's quite fancy. And so she was saying, she would say, oh, well, she knows she's not going to be able to come now, blah, blah, blah. And then she'd change her tone and she goes, oh, well, Jan, you miss out. So she just had so much humour amongst all this, terrible, terrible grief. And she had such gratitude for her two friends being right there with her, being able to jump in bed with her at 4 a.m. when she's crying. And that was all, I have no doubt, orchestrated by her.
Jan set her up in the lap of luxury to deal with it. Like, how awesome is that?
And it was free.
Rock on, Jan.
It was free.
Yeah, and it was free.
3 nights accommodation at this hotel that's normally so expensive. And she got this magical gift. And it all lined up with the death of her mum and us being there and the friend from Canada being here at the beginning of a 3-week holiday. So there's so many magical moments, and I have no doubt in my mind her mum lined that all up for her.
And here's the deal. I promise you, in 5 years' time, if you were to sit your friend down and recount the day, the first thing out of her mouth is not going to be, oh my God, I'm so sad. I'm devastated. She's going to tell the magic that happened on the day, because that's the frequency and footprint that was left behind from the experience. I promise you.
She already a little bit is. She's always like, I'm so glad you girls were with me. Thank God for da-da-da. And one of my friends went straight into action mode. She was on the phone. She was figuring out with the coroner. She was figuring out all the stuff. I got told I was comic relief because when I tried to make a phone call the next day.
That's my role. I wear it with pride.
I was on the phone to someone, and as I had to break it to this person about the news, she started crying. I started crying. My friend said to me, okay, no more phone calls for you. You're just comic relief.
So, you're cut off.
Yep. She said that was not my role. So, yes.
Awesome.
I could chat to you all day.
Well, we're going to definitely do the time travel.
Yes.
Oh, we have to because
we would love
well, I've got
that.
notions on that, let me tell you.
It's such an interesting topic, and like sometimes I just think I'm not smart enough to get my head around.
Your head can't quite grasp it, can it?
You actually are. It is so once, and I again talk about comic relief when you talk about why on earth would they choose that girl to talk about something, because it's because I can tell it in such a totally blue collar way, because that's how I am. Do you know? I'm like,
perfect.
This is available to everybody. This takes us out of the elitist and the knowing and the stories and the whatever. It's available to everybody. And here's the deal. It's actually not as hard as you think it is.
Oh, that's
so
good
when you
to
look
know.
at the concepts of time travel, and you're talking about the idea, wait a second. Wait, when she does her healing sessions and we're going into a past life, what am I doing? I'm literally time traveling. I am going down a chemical reaction and I'm putting myself inside of a frequency and writing that wave back to a story that took place in a different setting, extracting the information that is currently affecting that individual's reality and bringing it back and changing their current situation.
You explained that really well. I actually get that. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's put that in the calendar. I would love to do that.
That would be another exciting one. Perfect.
One of my topics. Mary, you've been amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your time
energy.
with us.
I love, even over online, the energy that we can feel from Mary is just amazing. So
Thank you.
It's so beautiful. So
and I know that you have the Loveolution. Is that how you pronounce it?
Loveolution.
Yes, I looked at that on your website yesterday. So if anyone has sort of connected with you on this episode, just tell us where to go to find out information about that.
MaryHelenHensley.com. That's where my books are there, my one-to-one healing sessions. But the Loveolution of which you speak I've had so many people go, would you please teach the frequency class, and in depth, not just a whatever. And I'm like, nah, I've got this and I've got, oh, my mom's dying. I can't do it right now. That's a great excuse for everything. And I was like, what are you doing? You need this as much as they do, because I thrive on this conversation. I love to share this. I love to be able to teach people how frequency affects the human body.
Yeah, we need
how the idea that we're not a body with a soul, but a soul that has a body. And being able to go, hey, and here's the manual, classic example of Loveolution material that we're going to discuss. I'm in a situation here. I had resolved with my little paintbrush in my meditation. There's a particular topic that I've been hyper focusing on like a monkey with symbols, and it's something that's not healthy for me. It's a behavior of another individual, and I am getting sucked into it and giving far more headspace to it than would be typical for me. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what are you doing? You know better than this. Like, stop. Mm-hmm. And so I'd had that little come Jesus meeting with myself, the committee, and went, stop it. This is unbecoming.
Yeah.
And so I committed to that. I was in my mom's room and someone turned and said something to me that was the perfect invite into that particular subject matter. And my mouth opened to start to speak. And I turned and I went, crap. You could hear my fourth toe as it shattered and the dresser. And I was like, beep. Yeah. It was crazy. So I know, doing what I do, I walk in, I throw 174 hertz on and I sit, because that frequency with the human body goes, okay, acute injury, you suddenly got sick. Let's find out what that's about. You put 174 on, it took me all of about 5 seconds. Girl, you know exactly what that was about. And so I switch from, I now have my answer, and then I move into healing mode. But you don't move into, let's heal our human DNA at 528 hertz until you know why you called that in. And I knew exactly why I did. I literally,
Mary, this is a whole nother episode
down. So I walk around for the next couple of weeks with this big purple toe. So guess what? In Ayurvedic, the fourth toe, or the water toe, guess what it's about? Toxic relationships with others and with yourself.
Oh, wow. And you were just learning that.
This is exactly I mean, it's hard to hit your fourth toe. Like, dude, it's sitting right here. Like, you got to go
Yeah.
around all week. And I specifically cracked that one in the moment that I almost uttered the words and let myself down. And so,
Wow.
oh, wow, how unfortunate you broke your toe. Really? No, I deserve that. And it was, and I'll wear that with pride
Yeah.
because now I have a teaching tool because it's so perfect. And it's like, here it is. Here's my purple toe. And this is how that happened.
Oh,
And so
Mary.
everything around that, what we're going to be talking about is how the body responds to its environment and how it's conditioned. That's how the suit is designed to support your soul's journey in
Okay.
every step of the way. Not the Jesus at the wheel when I get the job I want. No, all the time, y'all. The
Oh.
divine is at the
And
wheel.
again, this is my total. I will not. I promise, Scott. I will not go on a side tangent. But it reminds me of my nail when my nail came off, and it was the lessons around. Okay, but we would definitely have you on again because I could talk about 5 different tangents off the last bit of what you just said. So
Amazing. We
Love a
love
tangent.
your
I love a
energy as
tangent, but
well.
that's what the Love Revolution is
I
about.
love
So
it.
we're going in for a year long because I have issues with commitment. Thus, I'm single still at my age. And so I was like, I gotta commit to this. I need to do this
Yeah.
because this is fun for me. Like, what am
Yeah.
I doing? What not doing this? This is amazing. And so I want to deep dive into people who are like-minded and wanting to talk
Yes,
about this
and that's
in
the
depth, and
vibe
I
that
get
you
to
then
share all
get.
of this.
Yeah.
So this is the Love Revolution. It's on my website. It's a year-long dive into learning what makes this body tick and how you can utilize it to maximize your best life.
Amazing.
That's it.
Perfect.
Well, I'll make sure I link to that in the description. I'll also link to your Instagram if people want to follow you on social media.
Thank you.
And if anyone wants the video that originally got me interested, you can
I'll
DM
link
me.
to that.
And
I'll link to it
Okay.
in the description as well because that is 50 minutes
Good.
well spent watching that video. It's
Oh, thank
fascinating.
you.
I mean,
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you all.
Thank you so
And
much.
again, I appreciate your creating a platform for people like me to talk about this kind of stuff.
Oh, you're my favorite. Like
Yeah.
this, I knew this was going to be good. I mean, we were talking for so long before the thing started that Scott was like, come on, we need to record
We
this.
need to hit record.
So yes, so we really appreciate it. Hope you have a lovely night. We know it's there.
Thank you guys.
Evening.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Beautiful.
Awesome. Thank you, Mary.
Thanks so much.
Well, she was amazing. High
She was
energy.
incredible. She was what I thought she would be and better.
Yeah. Like just, so for me, the key takeaway is just look at someone as a great example of just not taking life too seriously and doing whatever she wants and acting how she wants, and people resonate with that.
Mm-hmm.
So don't hold yourself back.
She's 100% authentic. She speaks her beliefs. She doesn't get shifted off her spot if anyone else doesn't, agree with her. She just stays in her own sovereignty. I think she is incredible.
Yeah. And no matter what you believe, like I think her story is amazing. I kind of believe it.
I 1,000% believe it.
Yeah.
I was so excited to have her on the podcast. So I'm really excited for everyone to listen and see, kind of what they think.
Okay, what have we got coming up? This episode will be probably coming out in May. So we have a relationship retreat. Well, we don't. You and Tina do in June at Mandoon Estate in the Swan Valley.
Yeah, we have a few places still available, so we might still have a few available by the time this podcast gets released. We also have a breathwork journey on the 7th of June. That will be where we go into an altered state of consciousness. It's a emotional release breathwork, so a big journey. And again, we already have some spaces taken for that, so I'm sure there will be a few left by that point, but maybe not very many.
So that's also in the Swan Valley at a beautiful spot called the Raw Space. This will be our third one in that location, and the feedback that we get from people who attend that is...
It's just gorgeous, isn't it?
So it's a good one for people to just let go of things that they've been holding on to that no longer serve them. Is that the right line?
Yeah, and it's also in a very small, intimate setting. Like some breathworks, we went to one a few weeks ago, and there was 100 people,
too many people.
150 people. There was a lot of people there, and so this is a really small group, so that you do feel comfortable, letting everything out and being very vulnerable. You do have headphones and an eye mask, so it makes your experience very personal anyway.
Yep.
But it's nice to have that in a small group environment rather than with the masses.
And we have the idea of, because our next Reconnect Self retreat after May is not until October. So we're going to do something sort of in the middle of the year, maybe August, like maybe a one-dayer, Haven't worked that out yet. But,
yeah, different things we can add in for that day. Give people a little taste of what the retreat might be like if they're not quite ready to commit to being overnight. It's a nice way to dip your toes in and still do some lovely self-care.
Yes. And then a little pet project, which I love, is Breathe Deep. So if you haven't checked it out on our YouTube channel, either this one or DJ Scotty Q, we collaborate, and we have 3 volumes so far of Breathe Deep, which is breathwork it's breathwork crossed with deep house music that I DJ, and then Tracy does the breathwork over the top, and people are really responding to that. So you can check those out for free on YouTube, but we will do an in-person version of that.
Yeah, and we'll do a longer version as well for the in-person one.
Yeah, it's maybe like an hour-long breathwork house music DJ experience. So if you're in Perth, follow us on social media and you'll find out about it. It's at tracyquell.therapy. And then, just thanks to people for giving feedback, for subscribing, liking, leaving a comment.
Sharing with others.
Sharing with your friends. All of that helps us to do this, because it just gives you that little boost to go, people are listening, and it's nice.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's it.
Beautiful.
All right, great job.
Thanks, you too.
Bye.
Bye.